There's a kind of longing that has no name, a subtle, persistent sensation that something more exists, a version of your life that is more expanded, more aligned, more true. You don't quite know what it is, but you feel it's near, like an echo from within, whispering, "There's more." But this more is not external. It's not a new place, not an achievement, not some spectacular event. It's a state of being, a frequency that already pulses inside you, yet hasn't been fully accessed. You feel something is about to happen, and yet, at the same time, you feel stuck, as if something invisible is freezing the reality around you, no matter how much effort you put into changing it. The difference between wanting and being ready isn't how badly you desire it. It lies in the coherence between mind, emotion, and body. Bruce Lipton reminds us, your biology responds to your inner environment, to the emotions you repeat, to the beliefs you carry, to the stories still alive in your cells. Your body hears your emotions more clearly than your words. And Joe Dispenza makes it clear, the quantum field doesn't respond to surface-level desire. It responds to the frequency you hold in your heart, especially when no one is watching. A quantum leap is not a sudden burst of light. It's a quiet crossing, like walking across an inner bridge from who I was to who I'm ready to become. And that crossing doesn't happen in a rush. It happens with presence, with listening, with the courage to release the old, even if the new hasn't yet taken form. And what if your challenge isn't a lack of understanding, but a vibrational addiction to a past you've already outgrown but haven't yet released? What if your body is still clinging to a story your soul is ready to let go of? Maybe that's why you're here now, because the leap has already begun, and your body is about to learn a new dance. There's a silent repetition that moves through your days. You wake up, make almost automatic choices, feel emotions that seem all too familiar, and without realizing it, you activate the same vibrational script as yesterday. It's like living inside a timeline that feeds itself, not because you want to, but because your body has learned to feel safe there. Bruce Lipton explains that most of our actions and reactions are driven by subconscious programs embedded in the body, and these programs are fueled by old emotions, fear, guilt, insecurity, rejection, that have become habitual chemistry. The body becomes addicted to them, not because they're good, but because they're familiar. The familiar, even when painful, gives a sense of control, and the body prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar pleasure. When you live on autopilot, you're not just repeating habits, you're reaffirming a specific vibrational signature, a frequency that sustains your current reality, and the quantum field, in its impersonal precision, responds to the most consistent frequency, not the strongest desire. This is the root of stagnation. You feel like you want to move forward, but part of you still clings, still repeats, still echoes a past that feels too safe to release. And while that vibration isn't interrupted with awareness, gentleness, and daily practice, the leap has no space to happen. You're not failing. It's just the old program trying to survive. But now, by seeing the cycle, you're no longer in it, you're observing it. And that conscious gaze is the beginning of change. Have you ever tried to keep your thoughts elevated while your chest was tight? Have you ever repeated positive affirmations while feeling a lump in your throat or a weight on your back? Maybe you said, "I'm fine," when deep inside, your entire body was screaming that you weren't. This is one of the most silent mistakes on the path of transformation, trying to change the mind without bringing the body along. Thinking positively is important, but it's not enough, because the quantum field doesn't respond to the phrases you repeat. It responds to the vibrational state you sustain. And that state isn't built solely in the mind, but also in the emotions you feel, the impulses of your nervous system, the breath you barely notice. Bruce Lipton is clear. Your cells listen more to your hormones than to your words. In other words, your body responds to the substances you produce when you feel fear, anger, guilt, or shame. And if those emotions are habitual, even unconsciously, your biological field keeps emitting signals from the past, even if your mind says you're ready for the future. This disconnection creates noise, a vibrational incoherence. The mind moves in one direction, the body in another. And the universe, attuned to coherence, not appearance, senses that misalignment. Greg Braden reminds us, the field responds to coherence between heart, mind, and body. And when that coherence doesn't exist, manifestation has no clear path. It's not about stopping positive thinking. It's about feeling truthfully, about involving the body in your intention, about making emotion a bridge, not a barrier. When the body begins to vibrate in harmony with what the mind desires, the field listens, and it responds. Maybe you've been through this. You close your eyes, imagine your dream life, visualize every detail of the scene you desire, but when you open your eyes, everything looks the same, or even farther away. Sometimes that ritual ends up creating frustration instead of transformation. Not because visualization is wrong, but because, without the right ingredient, it becomes an escape. Visualizing without feeling is like drawing a map without believing you'll ever arrive. The mind may project, but the body remains stuck in the same emotional station. And when you imagine what you want without raising your frequency to meet it, the act of visualizing can become a reminder of lack. The image, instead of bringing it closer, reinforces the distance. Joe Dispenza warns us that visualization only creates realities when it's accompanied by an elevated, authentic emotion, felt in the now. Wishing is not enough. You must feel it as if it were already real. Because the quantum field doesn't respond to mental images alone. It responds to your state of being. If you visualize while your heart is numb from doubt or lack, the field picks up what you're truly emitting: absence. Bruce Lipton reminds us that the conscious mind may have great intentions, but the one truly shaping your reality is the emotional subconscious, which lives in the body. That's why fantasizing without presence doesn't transform. It creates illusion. The mind wanders, but the body stays anchored in the old world. True visualization is not an escape from the now. It's anchoring the desired future as if it were already here. It's turning images into vibration, intentions into emotion, desire into memory of the body. Fantasizing is escaping. Creating with presence is transformation. Few realize this, but the body is not an obstacle on the spiritual path. The body is the bridge. Everything passes through it: beliefs, emotions, experiences, traumas, memories. It is within the body that a new reality must be rehearsed first before it can appear in the world. And that's precisely why a quantum leap doesn't happen just when you think differently. It happens when your body begins to feel safe to live differently. The nervous system, as Joe Dispenza explains, is the translator of your emotional reality. It is constantly scanning your environment and sending signals. This is safe, or this is a threat, and it doesn't distinguish future from past or real from imagined. It responds to what you feel right now. If you desire a new reality but constantly vibrate in tension, the system interprets change as danger and pulls you back, not out of punishment, but for protection. That's why the quantum leap only happens when there is emotional safety, when the body stops fighting the new and begins to welcome it as familiar. Bruce Lipton shows us that your internal environment, made of chemistry, emotion, and sensation, shapes the expression of your genes. In other words, when your body feels safe, it literally begins to function differently. It creates space for new biological, emotional, and spiritual possibilities. And in this process, breath becomes technology, not just relief. Breathing deeply and consciously regulates the nervous system. It reduces fear, it deactivates survival mode, and it activates the vibrational portal where the leap can truly happen. Because it's in the stillness of the body that a new timeline begins to find its place. The leap doesn't happen in a rush. It happens when the body, for the first time, feels safe enough to remain in peace with the new. Sometimes, what keeps you from changing isn't a big tragedy or visible trauma. It's the small habit repeated in silence. That quick check of your phone first thing in the morning, already connecting you to the world's anxiety. That automatic inner dialogue that replays an old mistake. That rushed cup of coffee at the same time, in the same rhythm, day after day. This is how the old self settles back in, quietly, effortlessly. Every small gesture is a vibrational vote, a signal sent to the field, and those votes accumulate. When you repeat the same rituals, the same thoughts, the same reactions, the body believes nothing has changed. And since the body is the channel of manifestation, the quantum field simply mirrors more of the same, not out of punishment, but out of precision. Bruce Lipton reminds us that 95% of our behavior comes from the subconscious. That means most of what we do each day is automated and infused with unprocessed emotions. If we don't bring presence to these micro habits, they continue shaping the same reality even when we deeply desire something new. The triggers of self-sabotage are subtle. They don't scream, they whisper. They live in the just 5 more minutes that delays a commitment to your future self. In the unconscious choice to play that same sad song again. In following people who reinforce your pain. In staying surrounded by stories that no longer reflect who you are becoming. Leaving the old timeline doesn't require a dramatic rupture. It requires loving attention to the small gestures. A cup of coffee taken with presence is already a new code. One extra step before checking your phone can be a seed of coherence. A tiny, different choice, that's a portal opening. The quantum leap begins in the detail, because the detail is where the frequency lives. There's a silent belief that confuses many people, that the quantum leap is fast, immediate, almost miraculous. And when change doesn't happen at the expected pace, frustration is born. Doubt arises, the feeling that something must be wrong with me. But the truth is, the leap isn't about speed, it's about presence. It's not about racing toward the new, it's about inhabiting the now so deeply that the new has no choice but to emerge. The leap doesn't come with noise. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or dramatic twists. It happens in the silence of a body that suddenly no longer reacts the way it used to, in the thought that arises but finds no shelter, in the moment you realize that something old no longer moves you. It happens in the subtle, and that's why many don't recognize it. Joe Dispenza says the quantum leap isn't an event. It's an accumulation of coherent states. It's the body learning to remain in the new, even without external proof. It's the heart learning to feel gratitude before any achievement. It's the nervous system beginning to accept well-being as familiar, not as an exception. Think of bamboo. For years it grows downward. It builds invisible roots, strengthens itself in the darkness of the soil, and only then breaks through the ground. It grows quickly, yes, but only after a long season of silent preparation. That's how the quantum leap works. It seems to happen suddenly, but it was cultivated from within every single day in the moments when you chose to stay present, even when you weren't sure it was working. Presence is the new miracle, and remaining present is the most courageous leap you'll ever take. Transforming your reality doesn't begin with something external. It begins with an internal alignment built in layers, like gradually switching on a new frequency inside your own body. And this practice might be simpler than it seems. 3 layers, 3 keys, 3 movements that, when sustained consistently, open the path for the leap. The first layer is daily, intentional silence, a moment when you choose to pause, to breathe, to close your eyes and disconnect from the noise of the world. It's not about meditating to perform better. It's about becoming silent so you can reconnect with the field. Greg Braden reminds us, the field responds to coherence, and coherence is only born when you stop running outward and begin listening inward. The second layer is emotional anticipation. You don't wait to feel grateful after something happens. You feel it before. You don't chase joy once you achieve something. You rehearse joy now, as if your body were already living it. Joe Dispenza teaches, anticipating the emotion of your desired future is a way to heal time. Because when the body believes it's already there, the field begins to respond as if it were true. The third layer is micro-aligned action. Feeling is not enough. The body needs to confirm the new timeline through movement. Small, tangible, a different attitude, a new habit, a choice that vibrates with the life you want to live. Bruce Lipton shows us that the body reprograms its patterns through repetition. When you act as someone who already is, the field begins to treat you accordingly. Silence, emotion, action. These are the 3 layers that build the leap, not magically, but with presence. The body must live the new before it appears. There is a space between the old self that is dying and the new self that has not yet settled, an invisible territory where everything feels undefined, where you no longer recognize who you were, but don't yet feel at home in who you're becoming. It's in this in-between that many give up, because they mistake the discomfort of realignment for failure. But what few understand is that this sense of emptiness, of regression or anxiety, is not a setback. It's a sign that the leap is happening. This in-between place is the transition field. The old frequency no longer has room, and the new one is still stabilizing. And the body feels it. There may be insomnia, unexplainable fatigue, sadness without a clear reason. You may feel the urge to isolate, to cry without knowing why. This doesn't mean you're falling apart, it means you're being recalibrated. Bruce Lipton reminds us that every shift in the internal environment requires a biological reorganization, and to reorganize sometimes hurts. The nervous system used to the familiar goes on alert. It tries to pull you back to the old, not out of malice, but out of protection. Joe Dispenza explains that the body will resist. It will try to convince you the new is unsafe because it hasn't been lived enough times to feel familiar. And here lies the secret. This is the moment to move with gentleness. It's not about forcing the new. It's about staying present in the in-between, breathing through it, not fighting the instability, but embracing it as part of the process. As if you were crossing a bridge made of fog, where each step solidifies the path. If you feel lost, perhaps you're simply between shores, and that is part of the leap. When we think about transformation, it's common to imagine that everything happens on a mental or spiritual level. But there's something even deeper, something that supports all other changes: the body. Biology, the intimate connection between your cells and your beliefs. Bruce Lipton is clear in saying, your genes are only drafts. What truly writes your story is the internal environment you create every day. The quantum leap is not just an energetic event, it's a cellular event. It's the shift in chemistry within you. Every elevated emotion, like gratitude, trust, or genuine joy, releases substances that literally transform your internal functioning. Biology begins to operate on a different pattern, a pattern no longer governed by stress hormones, but nourished by a frequency of expansion. This means that when you choose to sustain elevated inner states, even for just a few minutes a day, you are reprogramming your body. You are teaching your cells to recognize a new normal. And as Joe Dispenza teaches, when the body begins to believe what the mind already knows, transformation materializes. This reprogramming is gradual, but real. It's not about forcing positive thoughts, but about teaching the body to feel safe in the new, to vibrate differently, to respond differently, to exist on another frequency. And that's where the leap becomes sustainable. Because there's no point in touching the new if your body is still committed to the old. Biology must embrace the soul, emotion must embrace intention. You don't change just by thinking, you change by embodying. And the leap, more than an idea, is a new vibrational home that begins in your cells. You don't need to wait for reality to change in order to start living differently. In fact, it's the opposite. The external reality only responds when you're already embodying, vibrationally, emotionally, biologically, the new version of yourself. That's why the quantum leap isn't a single jump. It's a daily rehearsal, a silent but powerful ritual of inhabiting the frequency of the new before it reveals itself. Creating a space-time in your daily life where your new self can already breathe is more than symbolic. It's transformational. It could be when you wake up, during a walk, or while writing. The moment doesn't matter. What matters is the intention. It's deciding that for a few minutes you'll walk as if you're already free, speak as if you're already healed, breathe as if you're already at peace. This small inner performance is in truth an instruction to the field. Bruce Lipton teaches us that the body learns through repetition, and every vibrational repetition is a vote of confirmation. The new timeline begins to feel familiar. The cells reorganize into a different chemistry. The mind quiets, the heart opens, the nervous system begins to understand. This is safe, and the field then starts to mirror that new vibrational space. Sacred repetition doesn't have to be complex. It could be writing a letter as if the change has already happened. It could be looking in the mirror through the eyes of your new identity. It could be choosing a song that vibrates with the frequency of what you want to live and dancing as if you're already there. What matters is that the body is involved, that it feels. Because true change isn't a concept, it's an experience. And when the body rehearses, the universe responds with a real scene. What you call a quantum leap isn't something mystical, distant, or inaccessible. It is, in truth, a change of vibrational address. A quiet choice to stop inhabiting the old frequency, the one shaped by beliefs, wounds, and unconscious repetitions, and to tune in day after day to what is truer, lighter, and more aligned with your essence. Bruce Lipton once said, "Your biology does not respond to what you mentally wish for, but to what you believe as an embodied truth." In other words, it's not enough to think differently. You must feel differently, live differently. Confirm with your body that the new has already arrived, even if the world hasn't shown you anything yet. Because true manifestation doesn't begin with what your eyes see, it begins with what your field vibrates. Neville Goddard was direct. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. The leap doesn't happen when the universe decides. It happens when you stop negotiating with your old version. When you start breathing, walking, moving, as someone who already knows they are worthy of the reality they desire, not as a performance, but as certainty, as inner coherence. You are not breaking away from the world. You are merging with the reality that always belonged to you, but that only now you're ready to sustain. It's not the right moment that transforms you. You transform the moment with your vibration. Think of the seed. It doesn't break through the soil because it forced its way. It breaks through because its time had come, because everything inside it had already changed. That's the leap, a blooming that begins in the dark. But it only happens when you stop waiting for the light and begin being the light. Now breathe, feel it. You are no longer where you were, and the field already knows it.